Hi, I'm Charlie Fripp for IT News Africa, and today we're talking to Chris Buchanan, Dell's Director of End User Computing. Is that correct?
That's correct, Charlie.
There we go. Thank you for joining us. And first question, what is Dell's strategy regarding Byod, and if you can elaborate on maybe some of Dell's solutions around that?
Sure. So just for members of the audience, Byod stands for Bring Your Own Device. Okay, and it's a trend that's come over a number of years, and it's basically a whole lot of things that were driving it, which were in the broader industry. There was this uptake on social media. There was the work from home, work from office type of trend. There were proliferation of devices out there, and users themselves got a lot more IT savvy and started demanding a lot more from IT. That put pressure on IT departments, and what was happening is really nice and shiny devices were available in retail stores, and the users were purchasing those and wanted to know why they couldn't use them in a work environment. When it came down to it and you start looking at the policies that are available and the challenges that are around deploying those in an IT environment, the users didn't understand it. So when you approach Byod, and interestingly in Dell we call it Bring Your Own Dell, not Bring Your Own Device. That's something that we've been trying to push for a while. Hasn't cottoned on just yet, but we're working on that. You first need to, from a holistic point of view, you need to define exactly what you're trying to achieve, and that is down to the HR policies themselves. So if you're going to be offering a device to an employee, are you going to be providing funds for it, or are you going to supply it and then it's their responsibility to look after it, all the way to what are they going to be using it for, and how are you going to empower them. So once you've defined those policies, then you look at your end goals, exactly what you want them to do, and right in the middle of all of that is the security. And that's critical, because now you're merging personal data with corporate data, which is sensitive, and you've got to make sure that those two don't overlap. There are a number of solutions around that, and there are a number of things that need to be considered. Our approach is to take a holistic view of this. Before you actually decide to define your policies, you probably need to audit your organization. So you have an end user goal in mind, you know exactly, you've defined what you want to achieve in terms of empowering your employees. Then you go and you audit your organization. Once you've defined the types of user groups that are available and the type of access to data that you want them to have, then you determine how you're going to secure your corporate data and what type of access you're going to allow. We've got a whole sequence of events that we take customers through in terms of auditing up front, defining these policies, and then sketching out an as-is and to-be scenario for them.
Sorry.
I'm going to continue, but
yes.
You can. I think you asked me also just to speak about examples
yes,
that we might have in the industry.
Examples of Dell solutions. Yeah.
I think that one of the very interesting ones that we're coming across at the moment is in the education environment. So in the tertiary institutions, Bring Your Own Device they actually don't have a choice. It has to be Bring Your Own Device, because they're not going to provide every student with a device. They traditionally have large computer laboratories, probably 1,000 machines in a laboratory where students would work, and they're trying to reduce those. They're trying to put the information in the students' hands. With that, we're doing a lot of consulting with them, some of the larger institutions, and we're involved in a number of the consortiums about how exactly you deploy that information. It can be quite easily just across an HTML5 or a URL type of interface, but the problem is that doesn't allow you to take the data away, and doesn't allow you to work offline. And students' data connection is very expensive. So when you're on campus, you can access wireless. But when you're off campus, 3G connections are very expensive. The size of the files that go back and forwards these days, it becomes prohibitive. So we're doing quite a lot of consulting at the moment with probably 3 or 4 education institutions around running some of our new devices, the tablet devices, and how exactly we can empower their students to work more effectively and probably reduce their carbon footprint at the same time with Bring Your Own Device.
Okay. What aspects should a company keep in mind if or when they are thinking of employing a Byod solution? What should they keep in mind? Are there certain things that they need to look at before they can roll it out?
Yeah, good question, John. I would say that it's a risky strategy. What you're doing, if you just look at it in terms of end users, they have a number. If you bringing their own devices into an organization, they've got a lot of personal information on that device. and some of it could be infected, some of that data. And when they take away company information, they could potentially share that in the wider world of the internet. I mean, a simple example would be someone that's connecting and runs out of storage on their hard drive and decides to take the company financials and put them into Dropbox, which is not a secure internet site.
Yeah.
Right? And how do you make sure that doesn't happen? Well, you introduce policies, you educate the users. That's a good thing to do. But I'd say the main concern around bring your own device would be around security. And if you address that and you're comfortable with exactly how much risk you want to take, then you can start around deploying it. There's not a continuum, but there's on one end of the scale you completely lock down a user, and you make sure that they're only access applications that you want when you want them to, and the other one is they have access to everything all the time and can save it wherever they want. And there's a balance, the amount of risk that an organization is prepared to accept regarding their data, and how much they trust their employees, I suppose.
Okay, I see that you have a Dell tablet here.
Yes, indeed.
What is some of Dell's new product ranges that's out at the moment?
We're in a very exciting phase. So with the launch of Windows 8, we found that it's allowed us to bring a whole new offering around tablets to the market. Some really nice offerings that haven't been available in tablets in the past. Nice interfaces, USB interfaces. The fact that they can be serviced in the field as opposed to taken into environments where there's a service desk and you're not sure when you're going to get it back. And then touchscreen devices. There's a massive growth in that sector of the industry as well. The all-in-one devices are becoming more prevalent in desktops, and it's a very efficient way to not only logistically move products back and forward, but also to deploy products. And Windows 8 is allowing that as well. So we've got some new products coming out in the all-in-one devices. We've got some really nice tablet products coming out. We've got some convertibles where you work as on a laptop and then flip it over and can become a tablet. The great thing about those convertibles, because a lot of the tablets at the moment are underpowered in terms of the processor. They need to be, because they draw a lot of power from the battery. So with the convertibles, you can actually run i5, i7 type processors, and then also get the benefit of a tablet.
Okay. In terms of Africa, what is Dell's footprint, size, scope on the African continent?
We operate in all of the countries except those that are embargoed. Okay. So we don't supply to the countries that we're not allowed to. But outside of that, we operate via partners. So we have a lot of partners in country. I believe it's in the thousands that we use and work with, as well as some of our partnerships. Our traditional partnerships with Microsoft and Intel enable us to provide solutions to customers. There are a lot of South African companies that are expanding out into Africa and require us to help them there. So we've done that in banking and finance area particularly, and mining is quite interesting as well. They're always very remote and very difficult to support, but we've built up over the years an infrastructure that allows us to support our devices out in
so
areas.
Partners are very, very important to Dell's infrastructure, if you want to call it that.
And becoming more so. I think I mentioned to you earlier that, not in this interview, but we discussed how I'd been with Dell for quite a number of years. And obviously we started out as a direct company, and that was the only way that we would interact with our customers. And as the model progressed, we realized that the value that our partners could bring to helping us provide solutions to customers, we basically weren't able to offer that. So in tandem with them, we're now able to offer a far more comprehensive solution to our customers.
Okay. And then tell me a little bit about Dell's system management solutions.
The system management solutions underpin our approach to bring your own device. So we've got a number of different models, and specifically around one solution, which is Case, which is the 1000, 2000, and 3000. So the Case 1000 allows you to manage the devices themselves. And it's really important, because what you can do is you can put this down in your environment, the solution down in your environment, and it would go out and determine and audit what devices you have in your environment. I like to use it as pretty much like when you're driving a motor vehicle. There are a whole lot of things going on under the hood, wheels spinning, motors turning, fan belts and things like that. But no one really worries about that. You basically just drive the car because you've got a dashboard with lights that'll tell you if something's wrong or something needs to be done with the vehicle. And this device allows you to go out there and find everything that's going on with your environment. You can test, you can basically deploy and audit anything that's in your environment and come back and show you what your environment looks like. and it's quite interesting how few organizations know what they have out there. The next part of that solution is the deployment. So the 2000 solution allows you to actually deploy applications, operating systems, whatever it might be required for users. There was one really funny example that we had of a customer where there were a bunch of users that were playing a football league game with an application that they downloaded, and they would uninstall it every time they got their hands on their devices, these end-user devices, PCs and laptops. But it became quite time-consuming. They didn't want to have to bring them in every time. So they basically just created, with our case solution, a policy that said that application was not allowed on the network. So every time the user came in and connected to the network, it uninstalled it automatically.
Oh wow, okay.
And then they wouldn't have to worry about administering that anymore. And then the last part of that solution is the case 3000, which is around our mobile devices. So it'll actually allow you to manage tablets and mobile phones, which is something that is very new to the industry. It was previously a domain that was seen as separate, but when you're talking about bring your own device, that's obviously all the devices that are out there that you have to be considering.
Okay. And then Dell's been very involved in local communities. Could you tell me a little bit about the Powering the Possibility program?
Sure. It's something that I hold very close to my heart. As I said, I've been with Dell for a number of years, and it is Powering the Possibility is our development fund. We take a percentage of revenues, not of our profits, and we put it into a fund, and we use that specifically around education programs in the community. There are a number of schools that we're involved with, and it's around digitizing Africa.
Okay.
And for us, we feel that the internet's a great leveler. I always use the example of if you were born in the United States, you have a massive advantage just in terms of access to markets over someone born in Africa. But since the advent of the internet, information is now readily available to anyone, and if you can provide the tools for people to access that, you put them on an equal footing.
That's correct. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us.
Thanks,
Thank you.
John.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.